Hello, everyone. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. Today I'm here with Bob, and he's going to tell you all about his business. Take it away, Bob.
Hi, I am a foundation repair expert. I graduated from Arizona State University in architecture and in finance good 40 years ago. And in order to finance my way through college, because I didn't have any money, I basically started doing concrete repairs and became an expert in concrete repairs. And
Nice.
eventually I went to foundation repairs. And so
Oh,
here we are. I am now the dirt whisperer, the concrete and foundation repair expert. And I built a business up to nearly 100 employees and sold it in 2023, in January of 2023. And since then, I've written a book. I have 4 patents and some software that I've developed to help engineers, home inspectors, and foundation repair contractors understand foundation movement a little better.
so that education did not go to waste.
That's right. That's exactly right. Kind of a roundabout way, but we got there.
Isn't that the kind of the way it is, though? We kind of fall into what we're good at, right?
Right,
Probably when
right.
you headed off to college, you never dreamed you'd be staying in concrete your whole life.
Oh, nope. Never thought I'd be the word dirt whisperer.
And it served you well. It served you well. So tell us briefly, what can you do for my clients here in Fresno?
All right. Uh, I've got in addition to my book, I've got a newsletter series that if you sign up for it, you'll get a copy of a free white paper on the 15 myths of foundation repair as they relate to the real estate industry and the
Okay.
10 most common mistakes that real estate people make in foundation repairs. And there's a bunch of both, and I won't have time to go through it all today because it'll be like drinking from a fire hose. And a lot of what I talk about can be very complicated, and I'll try to not use jargon. I'll try to keep it basic, but it's difficult. So,
Well,
you know,
maybe one of these days we can jump on here and you can maybe give us a couple examples too. That would be very cool.
sure. Well, we
Yeah.
we can pick one or two of them right now.
Sure. If you've got one, put it out, share
Sure,
the screen.
sure. So the first one that comes to mind is people think often, quite often, that dirt is dirt. It's not that complicated. It's just that brown stuff below the foundation. It's all kind of a contiguous mass of stuff down there. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Uh, Dirt is deposited in layers, and each of those layers are different densities, different mineral contents, different affinities for water and reactions to water. Water flows through between these layers and it affects each of them in different ways. And the layers are not parallel. Some of them are fat and skinny and they disappear and reappear maybe. And there's rocks and there's
Hard
all
pan.
kinds of
I know
anomalies.
that one.
Yeah, rocks, huh?
Hard pan.
Yeah.
I was
And
digging a hole and hit the hard pan, and I had to go get what do they call those? Hammer drill to get through it.
oh yeah, right.
So
Yeah. So you will run into layers that can be hard. And funny thing about it is right below that layer could be soft again. You
mhm.
never can tell for sure. It's very complicated. And so that's why we have what we call geotechnical engineers. And they understand the geology of a neighborhood, of an area, geography. They do lots of borings and are very familiar with what it looks like in a lot of places. And they are the experts when it comes to soil.
Okay.
So anybody else that tries to make an opinion about, oh, gee, this foundation is done moving or it's going to continue to move, if they're not a geotechnical engineer, they're BSing you. And this quite often occurs because the single most common mistake that most real estate people make when it comes to foundations is that when they see these signs of stress, and we can talk about what those are,
Okay.
They immediately go to Google, and what pops up is the guys that are good at marketing, the foundation repair companies. Well, that's a mistake because those guys have a vested interest in selling a product. And the guy that they send out is on a commission basis, 100% commission. He sells nothing, he makes nothing. And those guys generally make between 100 and 300,000 a year. So they're very well paid. And if they don't make at least 100 grand, they fire them. They kick them to the curb. So there's a lot of pressure to perform. And most people, when they have these signs of stress, so let's talk about what they are, cracks in walls, cracks in the floors, doors and windows that are out of square, pinched on one side and fat on the other. These kinds of problems, when people see them, they want to know, well, is this a serious problem? Is it going to continue? What happens if I do nothing? Lots of questions. You could go on and on about all the questions that people have, right?
Sure.
Well, how do you think a guy who gets a commission based on selling products is going to answer those questions?
Well, it'll be determined by whatever product he's selling. I always
That's right.
recommend get several estimates. Make sure you understand it before you
And
go
that's great. That's
spending that
great.
money.
Except for when these guys, when they come to diagnosing, it's a problem because one foundation repair contractor will tell you need 15 piers on this side. Another one will tell you, no, you need 18 on this side. Another one will tell you, no, you need 25 all the way around. And you, as a real estate professional, have no idea who's correct. You're not experts, right? How would you know? So it becomes very difficult. You end up trusting the guy that you feel most comfortable with, which is probably the best salesman, which probably is the one that's least qualified to act as an engineer. A better model is to call a forensic geotechnical engineer. Now, they're not free, but they're not biased either. And they're held to an ethical standard by the boards of technical registration for their states. So they are going to dispense unbiased advice with nothing to gain, no matter what they recommend, because they don't have a dog in the fight. They're just a consultant. Now, they're getting paid for their opinions. They're not getting paid for selling products later on, which is the problem with foundation repair companies. And the reason I know is because I owned a foundation repair company and I owned a forensic engineering company. So I know I'm uniquely qualified to understand both sides of it, how it does work and how it should work. And there is basically no oversight for foundation repair salespeople. They basically show up and do what they're going to do. It's mostly verbal. There's almost nothing in writing. So there's no checks and balances to hold them accountable for the statements they make. Whereas a geotechnical, particularly a forensic geotechnical engineer, they are going to usually put their opinions in writing, and they're going to be really ethical about the way they do it because they're held to that standard. And by the way, they have errors and omissions insurance to cover for their opinions if they make a mistake. There is no errors and omissions for insurance for foundation repair designs. Matter of fact, there's not an agency that is responsible for overseeing their designs. If you take a foundation repair contractor to the board of contractors and say, hey, they designed something wrong, their answer is going to be, our jurisdiction does not cover designs. It only covers workmanship. Okay. So then you go to the engineers board and you say, hey, I'd like you to evaluate this design done by this contractor. And they say, we have no jurisdiction over contractors. So what happens effectively is you get a design that is completely unregulated. Now, the
Well, I don't
foundation.
think contractors have to be licensed necessarily in engineering, but they do have
No,
to be licensed as a general contractor, which is where their liability uh,
right.
lays. Whereas
That's
the
right.
engineers have to be licensed as an engineer and their structural part of it and different things.
Right. So
Kind of
what
like as
happened?
realtors, we have to be licensed in real
Sure.
estate.
Sure.
Not always does it make us equal just because we were able to take that realtor's test.
Yeah, sure. But let me tell you what happens. Let's suppose 5 years later, you call the contractor up and you say, "Hey, all these piers that you installed for me, the 80 grand that I spent putting in these piers, well, my house is cracking all up again, and I'm concerned that your piers are not functioning right. I think you've got a warranty claim on your hands." So the contractor sends out his most experienced guy who is really familiar with expansive soil heave. And we haven't talked about this yet, but what he does is he tells the homeowner, "Oh yeah, the movement that's going on here is not from settlement. It's from the ground heaving up from expansive clays. And it says right here in our contract that we don't cover that. And so, well, have a nice life." Now, the homeowner then says, wait. If it's expansive soil heave, that means you probably diagnosed it wrong in the first place. And the contractor says, what do I know? We're not engineers. We're just dumb contractors. And that happens over and over and over again. And so this what this results in is what I call the design donut hole for foundation repair. Nobody covers it. And as a result, the system is broken, unfortunately. So all the more reason why, as a professional, what I suggest most real estate people do is find a good forensic geotechnical engineer in your area and develop a relationship with them now. Go take them to lunch, and then have these experts in your back pocket and lean on them when you need their help, and become an expert in this area with professionals that you can rely on, and you can carve that little niche out for yourself that allows you to compete in a way that your peers cannot compete with you.
Which is what
And
my whole business is built on. And I do have a whole section of contractors that I rely on their expertise because I am not an expert. I'm a realtor.
for
I
sure,
can help you with contracts. I can help you with any house out there and what's going on in its background, but I don't build them. I don't
right.
repair
And so
them.
this is a variation, maybe a continuation, I should say, of that advice. Instead of relying on foundation repair contractors, rely on forensic geotechnical engineers. Now, once you get a design, once you call out a geotechnical forensic engineer, and he may say, yeah, you got a little bit of problem, but it's done moving. Fix the drainage, and we'll monitor it for a while. You don't need to spend $80,000. Yeah, the foundation repair contractor is not going to tell you that. But if the engineer says, well, yeah, it's going to keep moving and it's going to be a problem, and we probably should do something about it. Okay, great. Now we get a design from this guy, so we don't have to worry about getting a bid for this or a bid for that and trying to figure out who's got the right plan and all that kind of stuff. You have a plan given by an engineer with his seal on it. And so you take that out to three bidders and get three bids
Which is
and say, bid
kind of
this
how some of
plan.
the industries are.
Right. Now you're bidding apples to apples, right?
Right.
And you can go and proceed with the work. Now, if you proceed with the work, you should hire a special inspector. And my opinion is you should hire the engineer that designed it to be the special inspector, because he's the one that knows what needs to be done in order to uh, basically make sure that his design is followed and implemented properly. A lot of contractors hire their own special inspector, and then this special inspector kind of, well, he gets a lot of work from them. He's going to kind of like watch out for the contractor, right? Well, that's not the right way.
And a lot of probably the engineers, and I know I've known a couple, they do a lot of the building inspecting, like for the big federal government buildings and different things. They're
Right.
licensed in specific areas, so they may be only, like you say, inspecting certain parts of it. But I find it very interesting that a lot of your fields are tied together. You are not just an engineer, but you are an inspector also. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when they're going into these different fields. You guys are are out there in the public and you're doing jobs that maybe are not specifically engineering, but you're inspecting maybe somebody else's, but maybe it
Right.
is your project, you know, but you
Right.
have a multifaceted hat that I don't think a lot of people realize.
Right. And as far as inspectors go, I do a lot of education for the inspector associations, ASHI and so forth. And I'm a member of Internachi, so to speak, and some of those groups. I help them understand how to recognize these problems. But of course, most inspectors are not engineers and are not qualified to opine on causes and recommendations for repairs. They just refer out geotechnical engineers, and they should not be referring out contractors like I've been talking about earlier. And so,
We all have our rules and regulations we have to follow.
for sure, for sure. And so, there's a myriad of issues that go along with what I've been talking about. Let me think of another myth. One that I think is fairly pernicious. Let's suppose that you sit in front of a contractor and he says, don't worry about engineering. When I turn my plan in to the city to get permits, it has to have an engineer seal. So the engineers can look over everything and make sure it's good. Mm-mm. Nope, not true. And the reason is when you go to pull permits, the only thing that the city wants to see is a spacing plan, a spacing for the piers, how far apart the piers need to be. They don't want them too far apart because it might droop between.
They
So they
have
want
their
to see
basics, they know, but that's about it.
that's the only thing that the city wants to see. And so you could have the piers on the wrong side of the house. You could have piers way too many. You could have not enough. You could have piers that aren't even needed at all. And the permitting process will not correct for any of that because it doesn't ask for an analysis of the problem and a resolution to the problem. It only asks for a spacing plan. And by code and by law, an engineer cannot utilize information with his seal that's not gathered either by him personally or by one of his duly appointed employees. So if it's gathered by another company, say a sales guy from a foundation repair company, he cannot use that data to arrive at opinions and recommendations. It's against his license to do so. He can be sanctioned for doing that. So that's how I know that this lie that they tell homeowners is a lie. It's not true. Uh, and so that's another myth that is out there constantly. Let me give you one more. Oh, don't worry, Mr. Jones. We're going to give you a lifetime warranty with this. That's got to be worth something, right? Mm, not worth hardly
If
anything. I'll
it's
tell
in
you.
writing.
Oh, it's in writing. It's in writing. But the problem is the contract's 15 pages long, written for the benefit of the contractor. I know because I had one of those contracts. I know how they work. Okay. It's almost impossible to win in a court of law. And nowadays, a lot of foundation repair companies are being bought up by private equity who have a lot of money. Guess what? You want to go fight them for 4 years and spend $200,000 or $300,000 in court? Good luck. It's a tough fight. And you're going to run into the same problem. There's lots of like little loopholes and get out of jail clauses in there. Oh, this is caused from heave, not settlement, or this is an area that's away from the piers and not affected by our piers, and therefore it's not covered under the warranty. Oh, the list goes on and on. What's better than a lifetime warranty? A seal by an engineer that says this was done the way I designed it, and it's going to perform. That's worth more money.
You're standing on your reputation basically with that
Right.
seal when it
That's
comes
right.
to the engineers, because that's what they went to school for and that's what
That's right.
they've designed for.
That's their
We do
job. That's right.
sometimes run into foundation problems, and I'm sure it did because none of the neighbors maybe have problems, but maybe this one house ended up with problems. And more than likely, when the the subdivisions was put in, this particular home had different soil or formed differently or something under there, and That's what it needs. It needs somebody to go in that specializes in what's going on in that because none of the other neighbors are having problems, just the
Right.
one.
It's weird. It can go that way. You can have a house all by itself. You can have random houses. You can never tell where you're going to have soil problems.
Hmm. And I noticed the different areas. Like I'm out of three different states. So the soil in Colorado was very different than the soil in
Oh yeah.
Kansas. I get out here to Fresno, California, and just to even go put a fence in was interesting because I had the big, I was expecting clay and, the soils from my other areas that I'd been
Right.
in.
Right.
Turns out it was all sand, and I'm down there with my hands trying to dig out post holes because the big post hole digger wouldn't even hold the sand. So no,
That's
it's
right.
different in the different areas you're going to be dealing with. So if you're in another state, your soil is going to be
Right.
different. And we're very, very deserty out here, so we have a
Right.
lot more sand. So that's dealt with differently than the big clay problem that they have in some of the other areas. And
That's
like
right.
Colorado has those big rocky mountains. They have that bentonite that they're dealing with in the gases and like you say, the hevel where the floors move and the
Yep.
coating's all different to where the floors kind of are they're movable floors. It's interesting how they put it
Yeah,
in
that's
and
right.
they're
That's the way they
floating
do it in
walls.
Colorado. Yeah,
Yeah, they're floating walls versus built on
that's
the
right.
foundation because you don't dare build it on the foundation because it may move 4 inches on you. That wall
Exactly
better
right.
be
Right.
floating.
Colorado is a unique animal the way they do it there. That's for sure. I
Hmm.
know some of the contractors there,
Yeah,
and
so all the coating's different from one area to the other. I know
yep.
in my innocence coming out of the Midwest, I got out here and it was like, I give. Where do you guys hide all your, your dual packs and heating and air and water heaters? They're all different out here. I mean,
Yeah,
I found them outside, which I thought was you'd never do that in the Midwest. You always had a utility room somewhere.
right,
So
right.
they're
It's
like
interesting
laughing
how
at me, pointing up the building inspectors laughing. No, they're up there.
it's amazing how regional construction differences differ
Hmm.
because they do things different every in all different parts of the country. It's really interesting. I've noticed that as well.
And we're coded for the earthquakes, which
Right,
Fresno
right,
barely has. I mean, we do
right,
have a little bit of an aftershock, but it's nothing compared to when you're sitting on the fault line, which is totally
right,
different,
right,
right?
right.
Than some of those. So yes, you don't see that out in Kansas, but you better be prepared for tornado or your house may be in, the next county over.
Yep, yep. Wind loads, big time wind loads. That's right.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's different
absolutely.
all over.
Yep.
Well, it was wonderful information, Bob. Why don't you give us your contact information so they know how to get a hold of you in case
Sure.
they are having
So the,
foundation problems.
sure. So the easiest way to reach me is just remember Foundation Repair Secrets. That's the title of my book
Okay.
and the title of my website. And by the way, I do have a directory on my website that covers the whole nation for people who want to find forensic geotechnical engineers.
Wonderful.
And now I I haven't vetted every single one of them, but I've at least looked them up and see that I think they offer that service. So it's a good place to start. I'm hoping to maybe improve on that list, maybe do some vetting,
That's a
but
wonderful
it's a
list.
place to
Yeah.
start, right? You can sign up for the newsletter there, and when you do, you can get the 15 myths and the 10 mistakes.
Okay.
And by all means, follow along and make comments and join the community because I'm all about making a huge revolution in the foundation repair business. And the more people that we can make aware of this and share with each other, the sooner this can happen, and we can all have a little bit better uh, ethics and a little better performance in this industry the way it should.
Definitely. Education is key. Now, is there a phone number maybe they can reach at, or is it best just to go through your website?
I think the easiest thing is the website because honestly, uh, uh, I do a lot of these podcasts. I'm tied up in stuff, and it's probably not easy to get a hold of me by phone.
Yeah, I always tell it's actually on my voicemail, I want to talk to you, I really do, but I'm probably with another client or I'm in a meeting. But hey,
Right.
sometimes text gets to me a little faster because sometimes I
Yeah.
have 5 minutes here and I can shoot off a text. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait till I can give you your 5 minutes because I'm busy giving somebody else 5 minutes. So,
Right. Exactly.
all right. Wonderful talking with you, Bob. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. I'm with eXp Realty. My license number 01997670, and I will catch you on the next one. I will include all this information down below and Bob's contact information. Have a great
Awesome.
one, everybody.